Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories, and our first story of the day is by Miss Shane. Entitled parent left his kid alone at the airport. Back when I used to work at an airport, I often dealt with kids traveling without parents. This was a paid service called Unaccompanied Minors, available to everyone under 18, but mandatory to kids under the age of 12 who traveled alone. The rule is that the parent or guardian or whoever escorts the kids, for the sake of clarity I'll just refer to them all as parents from this point on, has to stay at the airport until the plane is in the air. This was in case the flight was canceled because the paid service did not cover anyone staying with the kid until the next flight. The most extreme case would obviously be that there'd be no flight available that day anymore, in which case the kid would have to go home and come back the next day. Obviously, most parents were fine with going to the gate with their kids and staying until the very last minute. In all my years, I only had trouble with one entitled dad. He came to the business counter with his child, which was already a big no-no, as checking in unsupervised kids takes longer than average, and the business counter was, well, supposed to be a fast lane for business class and high-tier passengers. The dad shows his own gold card, so I bit back my annoyance and asked the person next to me to check in my queue until I was done. I gave the dad all the forms he had to fill, which already annoyed him. The kid was obviously under 10 and seemed very sweet. She looked relaxed, and I guessed she had done this plenty of times. Over the years, you learn to spot the ones who were not accustomed to traveling alone. The dad gave me back the forms and asked, "So where do I leave her?" I got a bit confused but told him, like always, that he had to stay at the airport until the plane was in the air. "What? No, I paid for her to be accompanied." "Well, yeah, from the gate to the plane and from the plane to arrivals." "I have a meeting in a town 3 hours away. I can't stay with her." "Sir, what if the flight is canceled? We'd have to call you back." "She'd stay here with you, wouldn't she?" "That's not a possibility. Sir, you agreed to the terms when you pay." "I didn't pay for this. Her mother did, and she told me I could just leave the kid with you." At this point, the kid started crying. "Daddy, please come with me." "Don't start. You like flying, don't you?" The kid says Mom always comes with me. "I don't care. I don't have the time. I want to speak to your manager." While we waited for my supervisor, we heard an announcement through the loudspeakers about a car in the no parking zone. The entitled dad went crap and ran away, leaving his daughter at my counter. She started crying in earnest, and I panicked that the dad was taking this opportunity to bail. My supervisor came, we closed my counter completely, the queue was almost empty at this point, and took the kid aside to talk over our options, hoping that the dad would come back. After 5 minutes and no dad later, we tried to call him. His number was one the papers signed. No answer. Then we tried the mom, whose contact info was also on the papers. She said she'd call the dad and asked if there was any way we could take the kid to the gate if he didn't appear, if she promised that she'd be there in about 30 minutes. We told her that there was still plenty of time before the flight left, and they could skip the security queue so we could make a little exception and wait for her at the check-in with the kid, but that we wouldn't let the kid go to the gate without a parent. The mother was understanding and told us that either she or the dad would be there soon. A few minutes later, the dad did come back, arguing over the phone with who we assumed was the mom. He yanked the daughter by her arm and took her through security. We felt bad, but thought that was that. No. I went back to my counter to finish the check-in, and then got a call from the gate telling me that the dad had left the kid with them. Obviously, there's a lot to do before a flight leaves, so they couldn't really look after her, and they asked if I could try to see him and tell him to come back. I didn't manage to spot him, and my supervisor told me to go sit with the kid while she, again, called the mom. My shift was about to end, so I didn't have to hurry anywhere except home, and I agreed to work a little overtime. The kid was in tears, and my shift manager had to get involved. While my supervisor called the mom, the shift manager called the airline asking if we can allow the kid on the flight if there's no parent present when the flight leaves. We were a ground handling company and did not directly work for any airline. They told us straight up that no. Fortunately, I then got a call from my supervisor telling me that the mom had arrived. To make things easier at the security, me and the kid went back to check in, the mom signed new forms, and escorted the kid through security again. The kid made the flight fine and it left on time. The mom was so embarrassed about the whole incident but didn't really stay to explain the dad's behavior and, well, it wasn't really our business anymore. She did say it was the first and the last time the dad would ever escort the kid and thanked us for doing all we could. She was obviously upset and overwhelmed, but we're not a country where we share more than we have to, so it was not surprising that she just left after the thank you. I mean, if you were a parent or are a parent, wouldn't you want to stay with your child until they boarded the plane and you saw that plane take off? If there was some kind of weird babysitting plane boarding service, would you just willingly hand them over in the airport? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next stories by Future Flux were a pet sitting service, lady. Okay, buckle up, this is a doozy. I work for a pet/house sitting company and had a new client on my schedule for 3 visits a day for 2 weeks to take care of a dog. When I get to the house and go in, I see a kid and thought they must be running late leaving and didn't let us know. So I said hi to the kid and said, "It's okay, don't be scared," then called out for the parents. The kid said they're gone. I asked, "What do you mean?" The kid then said I needed to hurry up and make her breakfast and take her to school. I asked again, "What do you mean? Where are your parents?" She said they're gone on their trip and again told me to hurry up because she's hungry. I asked how old she is. She said 7. I asked, "They left you here alone?" She said, "Yeah, her mom told her we'd be by in the morning to make her breakfast and take her to school, in the afternoon to pick her up from school and make her a snack, and at night to make her supper." I asked, "Where's Macy?" Made up name, the dog. She said they don't have a dog. I said, "When the owner came for the client meeting and to get the house keys, she met a dog." The kid said her mom borrowed the neighbor's dog. Oh my god. I called the company owner and told her what was going on. Of course, she was flabbergasted and came over immediately. She tried to get a hold of the kids' parents, but they weren't answering their phones, so she called CPS and explained everything when they got there. CPS took the kid, the parents' info, and left. The next day, the kid's mom called the owner and left a rambling message, screaming about how could we turn our kids into CPS and we broke the contract, so they were going to sue her for that and also for the cost of their ruined vacation. The owner called them back and told them our agreement was to take care of a dog, not a kid. And that was illegal anyway. And also, borrowing a dog for her to meet for the client meeting was deliberate misrepresentation. So good luck with a lawsuit. She hasn't heard from them since. I guess our pet sitting service was cheaper than hiring someone to watch the child properly. We still can't understand how this woman thought this would actually work. Who in their right mind would hire a pet sitting service and assume that they would just take care of a kid? For a dog, you make sure they have a bowl of water, a bowl of food, they go out to use the restroom, maybe a walk, and you're good. It's not a 7-year-old child that has to get food at specific times, specific diets, go to school, come back, homework, other responsibilities. How would that have ever worked? This next story is by Axers, entitled "Karen Thinks My Parents' Land is Hers." My parents live in a gated community and got their house custom built. They purchased the land separately as originally they were selling it all together and all they needed was 3 acres, not 5 for the house. So they purchased 1 plot for the house and the other plot next to it and left it empty for privacy, since if they bought it all together they would have to pay double the property tax. Now onto the story. It was about 7 p.m. and 25 minutes until sundown, so I was in my room texting when I saw flashing lights on the land we have next to the house. So I told my dad and we both went out there thinking it was the HOA, as they usually check to see if the trees aren't overgrown. So we went out there and see what we'll know as Karen in this story. Her husband, and son, which looked to be about 14 to 16 with a BB gun and traps. This is when it starts. Dad says, "Hey, can we help you?" Karen says, "No, we're going hunting. This is a really nice neighborhood." First off, how did she even get in? Unless she has a code or knew someone who lived here, she couldn't even get in. Dad says, "Sorry, but we own this land and you can't hunt here." Also, no animals come through here except squirrels or some occasional deer.
No, this is public land, and okay, we will set traps for the deer.
This is when the Kevin, aka the father, came in. Is there a problem?
They said this is owned land, but I doubt that.
I went into the house and called the community security. They were obviously trespassing, as even when my dad said it was private-owned land, they set traps. I didn't hear the rest of the convo, but when the security came and I came out, this happened.
This man is bullying my son for hunting.
Security says this is privately owned property. Even if it wasn't, you can't hunt in a community you don't live in. Turns out they were already looking for her, as when they were looking over the community gate footage, they followed behind another car that put in the code. Long story short, they were kicked out of the neighborhood, and if they ever came back without a valid reason, they would get trespassed and the police would be called. The whole time, the son just looked embarrassed and looked like he didn't even want to go hunting. Update, this is what happened when I went inside. Karen's husband says, "Even if you do own this land, you obviously don't use it. Come on, we drove an hour here to come here, and you seriously can't let us hunt deer?" Dad says, "No, I'm sorry, but..."
Plus, it'll be good for the community. Less deer is less noise in the middle of the night. It can also stop accidents from the deer getting run over. They're most likely going to die anyway.
Dad says that's up to the community if you can hunt deer, and I might use the land in the future. I don't want dead deer on the land. From what my dad said, they didn't have a car big enough to put deer meat in, so most likely they were going to leave it there.
Exactly. By us killing the deer, it'll stop the deer from being on the land when you build it. And you can just take the deer. It should be easy.
Dad says, "I'm going to call security if you don't leave. How did you get in here? Do you live here?" Karen's husband says, "It's not up to you. We will wait for security." My dad was walking to come in and call security, but he didn't know I went inside to call them. They came around a minute later. I have so many questions involving this story. Why did they go inside a community to think that they could hunt deer in there? Is this like the most forested HOA in existence or something? If anybody's going anywhere to hunt something, the last place I think you would want to start is seeing an HOA community gated property and going, "You know what? I think there's hunting to be done inside there." Our next story is by His the Whizzle, entitled "Mother Wants My Parking Spot." So I'm pulling up at the local supermarket, and the car park is rammed, but by some magic I managed to see a mother and baby space right in front of me and right at the front of the shop. I have my 6-month-old in the back of the car, and these spaces are perfect, particularly for getting his car seat out and straight into one of those trolleys that holds the car seat. Basically, my car is not a typical parent's car. It's a 3-door sports car. I bought it when I was young, free, and single, and whilst it's old now, I've looked after it well, and if I got rid of it, I wouldn't be able to afford something as reliable, plus COVID, so I just hung on to it. After I pull up, I notice a huge family wagon, which must have been behind me, stop and block me in where I'd parked, and a lady opens her door. I assumed because we were at the front of the shop, someone was popping in to grab something from the Amazon locker, etc., so I didn't think much until the silly old cow started ranting at me.
Are you actually going to park there?
Me looking around confused. Excuse me?
Really? You're really going to park there?
Yes, sorry, I've actually got...
These spaces are for mothers and children, not lazy cows with sports cars.
Actually, I do have...
You need to move your car because I have children and I need to park here. I'm sick of selfish people putting my children's lives at risk because they can't be bothered to walk.
Me looking over to her car and seeing a 7-year-old and a 14-year-old looking mortified in the back, you do realize these spaces are mother and baby spaces. At this point, I start leaning into my back seat to pull the car seat out.
Excuse me? You have the nerve to tell me that when...
I pull out the car seat with the baby in it.
Are you freaking kidding me? Seriously?
At this point, it's hilarious. She's now angry at me for having a baby. I just can't win. I lock up my car and head to the trolley bay and ignore her muttering something about a ridiculous car to have a baby in. She just wanted my space because she has a ridiculously sized car. I know hate is a strong word, but I hate these kinds of people. The kind that no matter what side you're on, no matter what the angle is, you're in the wrong for whatever it is you're doing. Anything you're doing is intrinsically the wrong thing, and it's all your fault, and this entitled mother is just completely getting screwed over by every little thing that you're doing. Our final story of the day is by Nick from Lafayette 92. Entitled mother uses me as an example to her kid about me being a sheep because I'm wearing a mask. I was going to the grocery store to get some ingredients to make a homemade pizza. I get out of my car, put on my mask, go in H-E-B, grocery store in Texas, and grab a cart. I went to get all the stuff I need, plus some additional items to snack on. I went to the dairy aisle to grab milk, and that's when I see entitled mother and her kid. The lady looked around 35 years old. Her kid was in the cart watching Elsa Gate crap on what I assume is her phone. Herself and her son were not wearing masks. I mind my own business grabbing the milk jug and go to self-checkout. It wasn't until I saw entitled mother take the phone out of the kid's hands and see her hold up the phone like she's recording me. I quickly try to get away from her, but she kept following me around the store. It wasn't until I heard her say to her kid about how I am a sheep bowing to the communist Democrats and wearing his dumb mask. I turned around and told her why was she following me, and she doesn't respond. I told her to freak off and just minded my own business. Left the store, put the grocery bags in the trunk, and noticed her drive away in her black Suburban. This is the kind of moment where you start kind of coughing a little bit in the other direction, away from the people, to be clear, just to make them want to completely run away from you. See if she appreciates you wearing a mask then. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. And if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.